Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to what will hopefully turn out to be the early access review of the game, as it took me a couple of rewrites to get it where I know that the information I'm passing along to you is objective and will provide you with enough data to make educated choice whether the game is for you or if you need to wait a little longer before you make the choice to purchase a copy for yourself. Because each game is unique, and this game takes inspiration from other titles of the RTS genre like Stronghold, Crusader, They Are Billions, and many more, I will have to go over certain features of the game so you know what you are getting into if you decide to add this game into your library. Game modes. If you therefore get a copy of the game, you will be given the option to play the campaign, which is however extremely limited as of now, as it only has 2 missions. This means that majority of you will spend your time with the endless mode, which has now up to 8 options. City of Joy, which is a mode in which you build to your heart's content. However, as the game has limitations in what buildings you can make and there are absolutely no enemies, I would rather suggest playing franchise like Anno, as the games in the franchise offer more options and are visually much more beautiful. Born to Chill, which is a mode similar to the previous one, however there will be few enemy camps sprinkled along the map. Labyrinth of Pain. Now this is where the fun truly begins, and where you can put your strategic, logistical, and micromanagement skills to good use. Not only is the map full of enemies, but every few days larger and larger hordes of the rampaging peasants will be storming your castle walls trying to dethrone you. I have spent most of my time in this mode, and I can tell you that this is the sweet spot in which I can see many of you trying to learn and perfect your skills, leaving us with the next option, Feat of Resistance, which is for the real hardcore players of the difficult RTS genre games, or just everyone else except of me, because I refuse to learn how to use keyboard shortcuts and I manage everything with my mouse. These were the original options before the major patch update has been released to the game, which is the 0.9.39. This patch introduces brand new game modes with brand new enemies, like Troublesome Valley, Land of Disobedience, of Lakes and Hulks, and They Are Legion. Each is given different size, majority of them being 200 times 200, and some being scaled down to only 160 times 160. This will definitely keep plenty of people entertained, as they can go challenge themselves against either the Royal Army or even the zombie hordes. So these are going to be the options you are going to be given, and for the first time ever, I will be going over something which I have not covered in such depth before, as it plays a huge part in your overall experience. Map Seed Generator. Believe it or not, but this will be either your biggest ally or biggest enemy, as depending on what sort of map you are going to be given, your overall economy and defense capabilities will be heavily affected by how far in each endless run, or hell, even in the campaign you are going to get, as the map seeds are randomized even for campaign. So why is this such a crucial part of the game? Well, it will be connected to the future points I want to get over, but in order to start properly, we need to go over what you usually are given at the start of each endless run. Small view giving you some idea of the surrounding lands which will need to be explored, and depending on how many bodies of water and mountain ranges you will find, you can expect to either have a balanced challenge or to struggle due to extensive logistical chains that will need to be created and maintained by you, the player. Here is the true Achilles heel of the game, as if you are given a large open plain with few mountains and bodies of water, sure, you can go ahead and build plenty of wheat farms or housing for your population. However, having access to building materials is going to be your downfall, as you will need to travel far and wide. And on top of it all, the large open spaces are a total nightmare to be properly defended in early or later stages of the game, as the sheer amount of resources required to build up fortifications are going to be your constant bottleneck, preventing you from achieving your goals. If you get, however, a map seed with a large number of mountains with plenty of resources, congratulations, you will have access to many resources. However, you will be lacking the space for either housing or food production, meaning you will have to expand more aggressively, stretching your defenses, which can also cause a lot of problems, which leads us, since I'm talking about this, to the next point. Resources. Currently, the game is giving you the choice of the following resources. Population, which is divided into total population and how many people can take up jobs. The general resources, food, iron, stone, wood, and the specialized resources, gold and soul crystals. And as I have gone over the second point, depending on the seed that will be randomly generated for you, the amount of resources will be heavily affected, as if you were to watch my review for a similar game called Becastled, you would see something similar. However, in diplomacy is not an option, it really suffers from high map seed success dependency. This will truly determine how far you can get in your overall playthrough, even if you are a total noob or a total pro. You see, if you take resources such as wood at the start, getting your lumber production will be quick and easy. However, once the initial sources of timber are depleted, you will be forced to go further towards the edges of the map where majority of the enemies are located, and on top of it, having access to forester that can replant those trees will require you to reach the third level of your town hall, which makes absolutely zero sense. Stone will be accessible, however, once you deplete the deposit, you will be forced to look for some further deposits, which are much harder to protect, and make sure that the steady supply of raw ingredients can be ensured. Also, you can come across deposits which crisscross each other's building space, meaning you will be only able to mine one deposit at a time. And in order to access iron, you will need to upgrade your town hall to the second level, so already depending on how many resources you have access to will affect how fast you can level up. Biggest problem for the game is the food production, as this is where the game truly needs to add more means of obtaining food, as it is simply not providing enough options. And as your population will grow, so will their demand for provisions, which will be heavily affected again by the map seed generated, as when you start the game, you have access only to fishing and berry picking. Berry picking is absolutely not going to provide you with enough food, so you will in every single start of your game have to rely on fisheries to keep your population fed. I came across a map seed where I had only one lake with fish, and after that was depleted, I was unable to keep up with the hungry people, and they started dying of starvation, as the only other means of generating food is farming, and you need level 2 of your town hall to gain access to grain farms, and level 3 town hall to have them upgraded. On top of it, you get maximum out of the farms only if you have plenty of space, as the farm building alone will require 4x4 tiles, and each one of the 5 wheat fields will occupy the same amount of space, meaning you will need space for 6 squares of 4 times 4, and if you do not have access to all of them, then your farm will not be at the 100% production rate, meaning your people will be starving, yet the full amount of workforce will be required to maintain the farm. This is where I believe that giving the player more options like hunter cabin, orchards, or other options are necessary in order to diversify the gameplay, like in Stronghold Crusader, where you make cheese, or you bake bread, or you have apples from orchards, or meat from the hunters. As I can tell you right now that in each single game, you will have to start by placing down 2 fisheries and 2 lumber camps. This can get boring rather quickly, and in other games like Age of Empires 2, they negate this by giving you access to more resources and other tasks which you need to micromanage to keep you entertained and to keep practicing your multitasking. This leaves only the special resources, first of which is gold, which you can get only by trading in your raw resources. So already if you are bottlenecked by having lack of certain construction material, this can make it difficult for you, as the best selling resource is iron. However, if you do not have enough of it and you cannot mix multiple resources types to be sold in one trip, you will run into issue of selling your wood or stone supply, which will create shortages, which will prevent you to get to the 3rd level of your town hall, as you do need gold to upgrade it. And if you want to get better prices for resources, you will first need to sell something in order to research a discount for traded goods, so then you can try to sell additional resources and you get into this infinite loop of being bottlenecked. And when it comes to the amazing promotional content for the game, where you see these beams of light and meteorites crashing down onto the enemy, destroying large hordes of them, well, you will require soul crystals for these, and I can tell you that when you need 5 soul crystals for 1 beam of light and 10 of them for 1 meteorite, a magical obelisk in your town on top of it, so you can summon such spells, you will need to venture out of your city walls in between each of the horde's attacks and defeat the enemy camps, as the only means of getting these soul crystals is by destroying their camps. And for each camp you get only 1 crystal at a time. So I'm not really sure if you will ever be able to summon so many meteorites at once, as once you clear out a large portion of the map from the enemy, these camps are not going to be rebuilt. So once you spend those soul crystals, this resource becomes completely obsolete in the later stages of the game, as you are simply not capable of gathering larger quantities and to keep using those helpful spells. Now, if the developer will add seed generator IDs, and once you discover good map seeds which you would want to replay to learn from your mistakes, that would give you balance between resources and the space for constructions. What do we focus after the resources and the map? Well, we have to focus on the following: the enemies. So doing the bang up job of researching the game when it initially was launched, as I was busy with Dying Light 2, I thought that you are actually fighting the orc hordes, learning only after, while covering the campaign on the channel, which you can watch here, that it's an actual peasant uprising. With the new content added, you have much larger variety of enemies to deal with and to find out who you like to defend against the most. You have your peasants, which come in many shapes and sizes but lack 2 things: equipment and training, as you See, if you go against them, you will find out that only specific classes of peasants will give you a headache, while others are just a cannon fodder. The Royal Army. Now, the Royal Army is going to be a pain in the ass, as you are not only dealing with well-armed enemies, but also with well-equipped units, and considering that you will have to invest much more into having the power to destroy some knight's tent so you can get one single soul crystal, it will be completely up to your personal preference if you would rather go against the peasants or the Royal Army. The next type of enemies are the zombies or the infected. Now, this mode is now newly added and unique, but I have to say I cannot find a good objective reason as to why the zombies are part of the game in the first place. Here's the thing. Once you start to defend your kingdom against more and more enemies, you will see them fall in hundreds, if not thousands, and their bodies will disappear. However, if one of your townspeople dies, or even one of your units, which is about to happen, well, their body will remain on the ground, and if not put away to the eternal rest at your local graveyard, by the way, I have covered Graveyard Keeper 2 here on the channel, it will start to first spread disease, then make your people unhappy, and once certain amount of time passes, the body will turn into a zombie, which will start to attack more people or buildings. I will leave some tips for you at the end of the video regarding this and some additional tips, but I really don't like having this in the game, as it really makes no sense that you have to put away your unit. However, the thousands of corpses in front of your fortifications have vanished into thin air. Bugs and the engine. Now, diplomacy is not an option runs on the Unity engine, which is becoming more and more popular amongst not only the indie developers these days, as it is shocking what popular games have been made with the engine. Cuphead, City Skylines, Subnautica, Fall Guys, Surviving the Aftermath, all these games run on the engine, but not all are absent of bugs, meaning it does not have to be the issue with the engine itself, unless it's pushing it until its breaking point, like in Subnautica, where in the later stages of the game it's just unable to keep up. And because the game has not been properly patched out, the future generations of gaming hardware are going to make the game look even worse potentially, but I made a different video for that, which you can watch over here. Diplomacy is not an option, had a bug which was completely breaking the game. Chances are it might have been patched out, but what used to happen is that if you left your construction menu, it remained open, preventing you from giving any command whatsoever, forcing you to completely shut down the game and having to start it all over again. One more thing which you will see frequently, and this is bound to the pathfinding of the enemy AI. Often, many siege weapons will be stuck behind some mountain, shooting at your building non-stop, from time to time even being able to actually damage them, forcing you to send out your forces out of the fortifications so that they can destroy them. But once they get in range, the siege weapons will turn to focus the units, and you can lose large portions of them, having to deal with the whole body removal, etc, etc. So this kind of needs to be fixed. And one more thing which needs to be deftly added or adjusted is the damage model for the siege weapons in this game. As I shit you not, destroying the enemy catapults or ballistas is a total pain in the ass, as if you would have your own catapults or ballistas from the elevated position on top of a tower shoot at the enemy siege weapons, you will barely be making any scratch to them. So keep this in mind if you are considering picking up a copy of the game. Now, when it comes to few of the tips and advice which I was able to accumulate over the 30 something hours I have invested into the game, buildings like lumber camps, berry foragers have option to set the area from which they extract resources. I know. What kind of an idiot does not notice that in the first couple of hours? And, well, I guess I'm that idiot. Why is this important? Well, considering that the enemies might come in certain direction before they do attack you, try to make sure to reposition where your population is extracting the resources from, as this way you can prevent them from dying while they're trying to chop down trees or harvest berries, as they will be killed, slowing down your production and generating bodies that will need to be placed into graveyard. Put the graveyard where it cannot be easily reached or accessed, and avoid putting it close to either your fortifications, outskirts of the town, or close to a highly populated place. Main reason as to why is because the longer your endless run is going to last, you will lose soldiers or people, and more bodies will be accumulated inside of the graveyard. Issue is, once the graveyard is demolished by the enemy, or by you trying to put it somewhere else, it will instantaneously turn all the bodies into zombie horde, adding additional enemies that you have to defeat, and if they are close to other buildings like your barracks or houses, they can kill many people, spreading disease, creating unhappiness, creating more bodies that need to be buried. Oh yeah, and the graveyard keeper has also possibility to change the area in which they operate, so you don't need to have 10 of them or have to keep putting it where the bodies have been accumulating while destroying the previous structure. Do not use the speed up time option for either too long or too frequently, as the enemy will be sending small groups to attack you from different directions, probing your defenses, and besides the large hordes and the time which is going to pass is going to actually pass quite quickly, you might be tempted to speed up the time to get those extra couple of resources you need for construction or something, but trust me on this, try to focus on other activities like clearing out the enemy camps or making sure you have enough workers or you have a place to store your food and resources. Run your research. Okay, this one is a little bit obvious, but I can tell you, due to how stupidly the research button is located and it's not really highlighted in comparison to the rest of the menu, on plenty of occasions I have forgot to run a research, and let's say I required having faster workers or sturdier fortifications. You have to keep this in mind, making sure that those buffs and bonuses can be obtained, as they will save your ass on multiple occasions. Which leads us to the overall conclusion. I can honestly go over things like the audio, which sets a lovely tone for the game, but considering many of you might listen to Spotify or YouTube while you are playing the game, or watch some TV show while gaming it out, these factors will not add any value to the review, and so what needs to be covered I have gone over, and so I really hope that the information I have provided will give you access to the knowledge that will allow you to judge it objectively and make the educated choice if the game is in the current state worth the asking price of 17.84 euro with the current 15% off discount, which might change by the time you will watch this. So if you want to make sure that you don't pay too much because some of the features which I have listed, put the game into your wish list and Steam will actually notify you with an email when the game will have the next discount. At the current status, I would judge the game at 6 out of 10 because I still think it needs more features to make it reach that sweet spot, like researching, having fishing farms so you can keep replenishing the fish, or having access to more units, having access to more defensive means, having access to more buildings, having access to larger variety of enemy types. It heavily depends. It's not really that objective, I understand it, but considering the fact that we have to compare this game to other titles like They Are Billions or Age of Darkness Final Stand, these factors are gonna play a huge role in your overall decision. But if you enjoy these types of games, it will be up to you to make that educated choice, and hopefully you have watched the video until this point, as here comes the terrible pitch for subscribing to the channel, as it does help me grow and improve and work on putting out a better quality content, as I'm just a casual player who should not be giving you any advice on how you should be spending your hard-earned money in the first place. But hey, we all got started somewhere, so in the meantime, I'm going to wish you a pleasant rest of the day, and hopefully I will see you all in the comments or in one of the many future uploads.